and good morning. Welcome to the podcast series Victim to Victory. My name is Tracy Cook, and this series gives a voice to those that have overcome challenges in all forms that dare greatly to share their real stories, amazing humans that go on to rise above and show hope to become victorious, that go on to inspire and motivate others to do the same. And today we are giving a voice to Azelene Williams. She is absolutely amazing in the space. She is a wife, she is a mum, and I've got her bio here. I do really want to share this with you because she's an amazing, impactful, motivating person, and her story will inspire you. So she is highly passionate. She's people-centered professional, and over 5 years of experience delivering community programs and services. She is so valuable to the community with her messages, and she's inspired by her own personal traumatic experiences as well. And she's in the pursuit of delivering messages and desired outcomes from her own fear to freedom as well. Now, Azelene is an international published author. She is a registered holistic counsellor. Isn't she amazing? And she has recently completed a Bachelor of Social Work, and she uses her lived experiences and studies related to FDV to educate others. Now, with her accolades and things like that, she's also a totally awesome, down-to-earth person. And she's published not one, not two, but 4 books, amazing, and received numerous awards and nominations that include, and not limited to, the winner. I need to mention these, Azelene, because these are amazing accolades and a testimony to your devotion to your message. The winner of the 9FX International 100 Business Awards in 2015, Mrs. Galaxy 2015 National Finalist, and Australian Mumpreneur Award Finalist, Making a Difference Nonprofit 2016, Australian Mumpreneur Awards Finalist, Big Ideas Award 2016, and nominated for the Telstra Business Women's Award in 2018. This is amazing. And last but not least, one of the 2020 Local Heroes finalists for Westfield, Whitford City. And she is going from fear to freedom. Please welcome Azelene Williams. It is great to have you here today on the Victim to Victory podcast series.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
No problems at all. Now, I would really like to get to know you. I've been following you, and you have inspired me in many spaces to go on to help others as well. Your messages in the community are very essential, especially in 2020, overcoming a whole heap of community things. So can you please share with our audience, what is your story? Where does this passion for helping the community actually stem from?
Okay. Well, I'm going to start right from the beginning. I'm going to try to make it a bit short. I know we only have a half an hour, but I think it's important for me to start from where I'm from and who I am, because in the end, that is who I became and the person I am today. So I was born in South Africa. I was born with a lack of oxygen. And that caused my left side of my brain to be undeveloped and resulted in dyslexia. So I grew up with dyslexia. I really struggled in school. I was always in the bottom of my class. I was always the one that couldn't stand up like all the other kids and read my homework out or read a book. And it really broke me down emotionally quite a lot. And it's almost as if those days, the teachers didn't really care that much. They didn't focus on kids with disabilities. I was classified as dumb, stupid, a washout, and somebody that would never make it in life. I left school in year 8 when it was actually year 10. It's back in South Africa, it's standard 8. So when I left school, and like I said, I lived in a real small little one-horse town. When I left school, the stories in the town were flying that I was pregnant, and that's the reason I left school, because the only girls that left school those days was pregnant or they were washout, and suddenly I was both of them. I came back after the December holiday, and the stories went flying. I had an abortion. Now, back then, the abortion law was not legal yet, but I had to live with all these stories around me that was untrue, and I had to cope, and I was very, very young. And I needed to learn to be resilient. Now, also back then we didn't, and you'll know, I think we probably the same age, plus minus, we didn't have the tools we've got today. And I always say, I think if I grew up in today's world, I probably would have left school, and I would have left school much more empowered. So I pushed through. I left my little hometown. I moved to the city. I think a little bit of I wanted to get away. I wanted to get away from all the stories. I wanted to get away from everything that people believed about me. And I went to Pretoria, because it's the capital of South Africa. And shortly after I moved to Pretoria, I met a guy in the place that I lived. They called it back then private hotels. You had a room there, and you went down for breakfast in the mornings and dinner in the evenings. And beyond, with the friends that I met there, through them, I met this guy, and suddenly fell head over heels, because it was somebody that gave attention to me, somebody that almost put me on a pedestal. Somebody that believed in me, that said all these beautiful things about me, didn't break me down, and it was just absolutely amazing. And obviously back then I felt head over heels. I grew up as a tomboy, so the boys didn't look at me in that kind of way. I was always one of the buddies, riding motorbikes and dirty jeans and so forth. So it was really nice having somebody that was interested suddenly. And the first year in our relationship was really cool. It was nice. He was nice to me. I actually want to show you a photo, because a lot of times when I tell my story, people say, he must have been a monster. And I'm like, he actually wasn't a monster. So this was me. I light my shine up here a little bit. This was me as a teenager. I was a happy young girl. These photos were taken in our first year of our relationship. I was happy, and I was starting a relationship with him. Shortly after that first year, things started changing, and it started changing very quickly in our relationship. And at that point, I didn't know what was grooming. Only as an adult, a couple of years ago, I learned about the grooming phase in my relationship, and I was like, yeah, that's what happened to me that first year. I could never understand why things changed, and changed so suddenly. So little things started with, he would start saying funny stuff to me. He would start pushing me around. Just funny things started slowly building up. It built up to a point where I got relatively quickly isolated from my friends and my family. I didn't go home over weekends anymore to visit my parents. I still had contact with my sister because we worked together. And I started working as a tea girl for anaesthetists, and my sister was a secretary there. And literally a tea girl. I carry tea around, and I'll put accounts in envelopes. So that was my first job, and I worked in the same environment as her. So I had that little bit of contact with her. But after work, I had to go home. And he would also, if we had things on after work, never let me stay alone in my own environment. He will drop me off with his parents when he had meetings with clients. He told me back then that he was 3 years older than I was. My mum found later on out that he was 4 years older than I was. About 3 years ago, I actually met somebody that was in school with him. And shockingly, he was the same age that my sister was. He was 6 years older than I was. So, and this is something I only found out about 3 years ago. This man was in school with him in South Africa, primary school and high school. So that was a bit of a shock. And it made me realize that my entire relationship with him, I was a minor, I was underage, and he was over 20 from the beginning in our relationship. And that was scary. And that is stuff that these days when I talk about my relationship, because I kept so quiet for such a long time about it and never spoke about it, after I ended my relationship, I went to see a psychiatrist just to get over most of the stuff that was going on for me. I went for hypnosis sessions, but I never really spoke about it. I never really opened up to my mom and my sister and so forth about the details that went on in my relationship. And thinking back now, it's actually more hurtful knowing that I was actually a minor. I was underage. I was a child. I thought I was big because I was out of the home, and I lived in the city, and I lived on my own, and so forth. But I was actually just a child being abused by this man. I didn't know anything about the cycle of abuse back then, and looking back now, I can see that exact pattern of what was going on. Things that triggered him, when things started building up. It is so clear if I think back about little things that happen. Now, it happened many years ago, and obviously I recall things that was very significant for me, and most of those things I've mentioned in my book. There's a lot of that I blocked out that I couldn't remember. I was asked the other day when I had my interview with the Department of Justice about the night I lost consciousness, the last night, because they had an interview with me about the strangulation law that just came in this week. And suddenly it triggered to me, because I tell my story on the back of my book. I actually wrote about the last night when he abused me and I passed out. And I knew that evening, at one point he took me by my neck, picked me up and threw me against the wall. I knew I lost consciousness. I knew I woke up a couple of minutes later, half an hour. I don't even know how long, because I didn't check the time. And they asked me, but what happened? Why did you pass out? And suddenly I realized, I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know what happened between stuff going on and abuse going on. And I remember I was lying on the floor being kicked. And I remember removing a key out of his pocket. And I can't remember what happened in between. And that's scary. It's scary thinking back about things like that and bringing things up. So I was in this relationship for 3.5 years. I almost died twice in the relationship. At one point, about a year before I escaped the relationship, I decided to move into my own flat. And the evening when I told him my dad's going to help me to get a little place to live in the city, he completely lost control. He ran, he pulled out a .38 special, and when he shouted to the girl that worked for them, where's the safe skis, I realized something big's going to happen. I got his sister-in-law out of the house with their 2 young boys. They had 2 very, very young children. Can't remember, I think they were about 3 and 5 and 6 around there. They were small little toddlers. And as I got them out of the house and safety in the garage, I came around the garage to see where he was. And the next moment when I looked up, he pointed a .38 special revolver through the bathroom window in my face. And I just froze next to the wall at the garage. And I remember I looked into this barrel, and it was scary. I grew up with firearms. I was a keen hunter back in South Africa when I lived there. I do still today do a lot of target shooting. I know guns, but I've never been on the other side. And I think that's one of the reasons why back in South Africa, my hunting was very short-lived. Because it's scary. It's scary being on the other side of a gun. And
but
the next moment,
confronting, Azelene, very confronting.
I've
had a gun held to me in an armed hold-up at a drive-through bottle shop. So I completely relate when you say being on the other side. It's very confronting.
It's extremely confronting. And you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, are they just scaring you? You don't know. The next moment, he did pull the trigger. The bullet went off. It missed my face with about 10 centimeters. It was so close in the wall that the cement particles, I felt it on my face, and some of it actually went in my eye. And I closed my eyes when it went off. When I heard the gunshot going off, I actually closed my eyes and I was standing there, and I was like, I don't know, I don't feel anything. I don't know if it penetrated me, what happened. I did feel this bit of stuff on my face. At that point, I didn't realize it was cement. And it was seconds when I realized I need to react. I need to do something. And I realized that he didn't hit me and I had to run. I still don't know today if he just tried to make me scared or if he was just somebody that couldn't aim properly. I don't know. I don't know if he really wanted to kill me, or was he just making, a threat, what it was. I ran away to the next door neighbours, phoned the police from there, and I went back after that incident. I went back for another year. I get asked a lot of times, why did I stay? And it's a confronting question, and I know there's a lot of people that don't like that question, specifically survivors, and I absolutely understand it. But because I've been asked that question so many times, I realize I can do one or two things. And I think that's my entire life's been like that. I always try to find the positive in any bad situation. And I looked at this after I've been asked this question again, and it was really hurtful. And I want to say a lot of things to people, don't ask me that question, ask me anything else, and ask me why I stayed. But I took that and I got to the realization that I need to answer that. And I don't just need to answer for myself, but I need to answer that question for other people. Because if I want to be an educator of domestic violence, if I want to be an advocate, I know when people ask that question, they ask that question because they don't know. They don't ask that question because they want to hurt you. They don't ask that question because it's just a question. They don't know. They don't understand it. And as an advocate and a survivor and somebody that really wants to educate people around that, I want to answer that question. And the reason I stayed was guilt, shame, and fear. The guilt was, I think, a lot to do with my parents, because I never told them about it. I never told them what was really going on behind closed doors. I lied why I didn't go and visit them anymore. I lied about my bruises. Oh man. You can only fall down the stairs so many times, and you can only walk into door frames so many times. The mask and the lies was something that was not part of my life, because I'm a very honest person still today. People that know me know that I'm a kind-hearted, honest person, and the guilt was the lies I told. Specifically, I think for my mum, because I had a good relationship with her and she was the one I always ran to. The relationship with my dad was extremely good. He was my absolute hero, and I didn't want to disappoint him. So that was my guilt and my shame. The fear was the living part of it. The fear was, what's going to happen if I leave? I was scared about being killed. I have looked in that barrel. I know what he was capable about, or capable to do. But I also knew that if I stay, there's a possibility that I might end up dead. But I was young, and as I said earlier on, I was a child, and I was stupid to not talk to my parents and people around me about this. The last evening, the part of that's my cover of my book, was the evening that I left my relationship. That was the evening I phoned my sister. She was the first person that I phoned when I got to the police station. And the day before at work, as I walked out, because it was over the weekend, or just when the weekend started, Ronelle, my sister, said to me, and we actually made eye contact. She said to me, Azelene, if you ever need me for anything, and she looked at my arm because I had a very bad bruise from the previous night on my arm, walking into a door frame again. And she said, if you ever need me, phone me any time of day or night. And the night after, it was the final evening when I escaped my relationship, I phoned my sister. And when they picked up the phone, she was married. When they picked up the phone, the first thing she said was, where are you? Not what happened. Nothing. Just where are you? Because she knew I needed her. And that was the most amazing part of it, because I didn't have to explain myself. I think heart of heart, she knew for a very long time. The biggest mistake I did make, and I think that's probably why things are so raw for me sometimes and why it triggers me, is I never really spoke about it up until 2012, when I published my book for the first time. I republished it in 2015 or 2015, and I'm actually going to do some changes in it now again. I've only started speaking up really about what was going on in my life in 2015. What I realized with what's going on for me and things that triggers me from my past is emotional abuse is much worse than the physical stuff. After I escaped that abusive relationship, I can't recall exact days and times and so forth. I think it was about 2-3 days after that. His mother came to visit me, and she came with a little love poem that she gave me, and his sister was there. And she said to me, are you okay? You look okay. And I said to her, let me show you what your son did to me. And I pulled up my T-shirt to show what my body looked like, because I was extremely bruised. And I actually looked through the medical files from the hospital the other day. And the areas of, so they're all in Afrikaans. I've never posted it out yet, but I must actually just get it changed into English. I had airway and neck marks on me. I had marks on my face. I had marks on my back, on my chest, my tummy, and my ribcage area. So that was all the places where it was very fresh bruising. And she looked at me and she said to me, Azelene, don't worry. The blue marks will go away soon. She was right. It did. The blue marks did go away soon. The blue marks turned into green marks, and the green marks into yellow marks, and suddenly it faded and it was gone. But the memories and the pain and the guilt and the shame and the fear that I've been through is still very much there. I think what makes it worse for me at this stage of my life, and I think that's why I am very emotional about talking what's going on in my life, is my daughter is 13 years old. And she's a bright 13-year-old. She's a very mature 13-year-old. And I look at her and I see a child. And I see somebody that I protect and I love and I guide. And she's 3 years from the age I was when I walked into this relationship. And it makes me shit scared. It makes me so scared. It makes me scared to think that I'm raising a strong individual. Because from my knowledge, I know that predators like strong people. A narcissist loved a person with a strong personality. They like to break that person down. And I just hope and I pray that I'm giving enough tools for my 13-year-old, since she was 6, to go through her life meeting wonderful people and have healthy relationships. With what I do with my work with WA's Child Safety Services, running youth programs in schools, that's my passion. My passion is to educate young people. They relate to what I've been through. They relate to what I'm still going through. They relate to my healing, because even breaking down is part of my healing process. I shut that part away for such a long time. I never healed. I just hid it. And for me to educate, being able to tell my story openly and teach young people that a healthy relationship is something that they need to look and focus on in their relationships now, not wait till they are adults, because domestic violence is not just the adult thing. I work weekly with young people escaping and going through domestic violence. And just being able to guide them and tell them my story and give them the courage to not be scared and speak up and get people to talk to, and people who they can trust, and not get isolated, is for me one of the best things that I could ever do in my entire life.
Well, our stories are definitely given to us for a reason, and we definitely have to embrace that vulnerability. And as Brene Brown says, step into the arena and dare greatly. It's really hard dropping that armor that we wear with all the dents and the scratches that make us who we are, and to let people in again and trust again and develop healthy relationships again when you've been broken down so far and you've rebuilt yourself. And I think there's true courage in showing our true selves and through our vulnerability, because that is where the strength happens. And there is so much more awareness now around grooming and online predators. And you hit the nail on the head, Azelene, when you said that narcissists like strong people, and especially, not only boys but girls as well. They want to be able to break them down. They see it as a challenge. And I know there's been heaps of studies done around this as well. So they will go after the stronger people because that's more of a challenge and more of a badge of honor for them. So bring that awareness into the schools and teaching it. They may not be going through that, but they may know somebody who is. So you're giving them the skills, the resources, and the tool belt that they can draw on and maybe recall. Because if grooming can happen in a bad way, it can happen in a good way as well. I totally believe that. We can groom our children to be aware, to know the signs, to have that toolkit ready. They may not necessarily need it themselves, hopefully, but they may be able to help somebody else. They may have a friend at school that's coming to them saying this is happening or that is happening, and for them to be able to know how to guide them or where to guide them, that is essential for the future of our communities. And that's how we heal. That is how we heal as well. So what kind of message today, Azelene, and thank you once again, your story is very, very relatable to a lot of things that are going on, not only now, but have been going on for hundreds of years. The awareness around domestic violence is incredible. The awareness, people actually stepping forward and saying, hey, raising their hands and saying, hey, I need help. It's not a shame. It's not a shame as much anymore. I'm hoping we can change the shame around that. And it was very relatable for me, the part of your story where you felt shame telling your parents. I can very much relate to that. I didn't want to go home to my parents, black and blue, 8 months pregnant, after being hit with a baseball bat and saying, hey, I need your help, because I felt shame and I went back. So to be able to say, hey, there is no shame in that. It is okay to raise your hand and say, I need help. and go and actually ask for help and all the resources. There's so many more resources there now. People still aren't reaching out. So they're the messages, and they're the people we need to help the most, right? They're the people that we need to say, hey, it's okay to feel shame, but we're not going to ask you how or why or get you to explain. We just need to be able to help you and remove you from a harmful situation.
Exactly. Well, I've thought about the message last night when I spoke to you about it, and I thought to myself, I want to put something together, and I've actually written it down, typed it out, and I'm going to read it because I don't want to forget anything. With my dyslexia, I can't always memorize everything. So here we go. My message to everybody out there listening and who heard my story is, do not ignore the warning signs. Speak up and never lose hope. Somewhere out there, there's somebody that you can trust, that will listen, and that will believe you. Be kind to yourself, get help, and get out. There's no excuse for any form of abuse. Violence and abuse in an intimate partner relationship is not your fault. The person abusing you is doing it because they choose to do so. It's not because you triggered them or anything you said or done. I know it is scary to leave, and I also know it's dangerous. However, with the right support, and there's a lot of it out there, you can get through this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is a very powerful message to leave this series on. And thank you so much for being brave once again. I know it doesn't matter how many times you tell a story, it will always pull another emotion. I really thank you, and I'm so grateful for you sharing your story and the community work that you are doing. You're so appreciated. I'm so glad that the world has got people like you, Azelene. Everybody, please connect with Azelene. We will share her links. We'll share the links to her books and things like that as well to help you. And even if you leave it on your coffee table, in your office, in your child's bedroom, you never know when they need those resources. So you can find our podcast on YouTube and the Facebook group at Victim to Victory podcast series. And if you got value from today, please subscribe, like, and comment. And I would like to leave you with a message and thank you, Azelene Williams, for being our guest today, to step into your power and let your voice roar. Thank you.